All right. We're back with another episode, but first the sponsors. Head over to www.johnbartoloshow.com and go check out a complete list of all the sponsors and everyone that supports the show. I want to take a minute and thank a few of them now. Special thanks to Blackwater Ammunition, CAA, Pulsar. Thermal technology is coming down in price, guys. Go check out Pulsar. Gallo Technology for the walls behind us. Rhino Metals for all the tables in front of us. I want to give a special thanks to Volquartsen, Right On Optics, Enforce Weapon Lights, and I hope I named everybody. If I didn't, go check out the complete list, and the list is down below to click in every podcast. Go check them out. Without the sponsors, the show wouldn't be possible. And one more special thanks to Kenzie's. I keep forgetting Kenzie's. Go shop for all your Vortex optics at Kenzie's. Go check them out. Got a special guest today I'm excited to have on. I've been kind of doing the dance with getting him out here, and we finally did it. Thank God. He showed up in style. We got the one and only, the CEO of Nine Line, Tyler Merritt.
What's up, man?
What's going on, brother? Remember, that mic moves. Keep it nice and close.
I got
so
it.
we can get all the way. Get all the way in.
Oh, how do I like this?
Yeah, wide mouth.
And then just keep my hands the whole time.
However you want.
Got it.
It moves. Listen, I learned a lot about your brand the last couple days. This is crazy.
I'm happy for you.
I'm happy for us. How the hell did you get into this, and what the hell were you thinking? Because clothing's the worst business to get into.
I've always been a fashionista. I think that's what it is. I'm a big fashion person of T-shirts and sorts. I obviously from helicopter flying missions on different continents with bearded men to making T-shirts is a decent transition. But it actually happened when I was in my unit. I went from flying Apaches to the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, and my first additional duty was T-shirt guy. So like some people are fridge bitch, some people are like
the coin guy.
Yeah, you're gonna do these menial tasks and enjoy while you're doing all the other stuff. So going through that, trying to collect people's information, eventually money, getting T-shirts, having people agree on it, getting poor quality shirts,
right?
Made me want to go figure out how to do it better. And that's always been a thing prior to that, is just trying to figure out how things work. And I learned about the industry, and it seemed intriguing, and then I kind of went after it.
You're like, what the fuck am I doing in this industry? You realize that real quick, right?
Yeah, you know what though? It's interesting. You learn something new every day. You make incredible partnerships because people that start to dabble in manufacturing start to learn that they don't want to do it, and it's a little bit more complicated than people thought. When
you started, you obviously didn't think you'd get to this point, right? Or did you?
I mean, that's always the idea, right? I mean, I started a couple companies prior to this, and I have a few other companies that spun off from this. And, I like business. I like systems. I didn't know anything about flying helicopters before I went to flight school. And then you learn everything. And you want to learn everything because you don't want to die, right? So it's the same idea. Like overseas, I was concerned about my life and the lives of the people that I was in charge of. Back home, I'm in charge of people's livelihoods, and it's the same level of stress. So if I can be the subject matter expert in that aircraft or in this industry, then I want to learn. And I think that's what really drives people is innovation and creativity, and then also having incredible humans that work for you. And we hire a lot of veterans and a lot of veteran spouses that truly understand, my community, our community. And obviously we've been able to build incredible partnerships with a lot of people, to include yourself.
I appreciate that.
But how did I get into it? Just like everyone else, man. I'm sure you didn't think 20 years ago you were going to be sitting here talking on podcasts to incredibly interesting humans. I saw the people on your wall, and they're very interesting humans.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of wackadoodles that come through that door. So a lot of interesting cats. So it's wild to me because everybody starts out, anybody I've ever talked to, like, don't get into the apparel business. Don't get into the apparel business, right? You hear that over and over again. It's a common theme. And I had this conversation with Danny from Dixon Flannel Company, and we were talking, and, they always have that one moment, right, that they realized they had something. And for him, it was like the Harley crowd that came in and aggressively supported him and were screaming out to have, his apparel in the stores. Where was that moment for you that you were like, I got something?
I still don't think that it truly sets in, because you see your logo on vehicles and you see people wearing your product and you see people talking about your company. And a lot of people don't know me, which I like as well, because they'll tell me about my own company. And now I've got 4 stores around the country. We're going to probably open up on a 5th in Daytona. And my plan is to have dozens and dozens of these stores. But it still hasn't sunk in. And I think that's, one good. I think when people truly believe that they've just figured it all out and everything's great, then it's that complacency. But I'd say right in the beginning, when we started going to trade shows and people started talking about our brand, in such a positive way, and we really for a long time tried to, operate in the shadows. We started working with other organizations and brands.
You did a shitty job of operating in the shadows.
I don't know, because I feel like we've stayed relatively, not in the spotlight on purpose. It's not always this look at me, but we're that quiet professional. And I think there's a lot of organizations out there that are always jumping up and down, look at me. And it's not authentic. And if your brand is not authentic, then it'll fail. When we work with Black Rifle, I love those guys. They're very authentic. What you see in the videos is what you get.
Right.
And when you work with, people like Redcon, people like yourself, I work with a lot of the same individuals that you do. It's authentic brands. And I think if you can create that authenticity and you can continue to connect with your fan group, then the sky's the limit.
But being authentic comes at a cost, doesn't it? I mean, I can attest to that. It comes at a cost. I mean, I've lost more jobs than I because it comes at a cost. And if you're real and you're painfully real with people, and you always know where you stand. And a lot of people say, I like painful honesty. And then when you give it to them, they don't always love it, right? So, when I work with brands on a marketing and branding level, I'm always saying to them, listen, I'm going to shoot it to you straight. I'm going to tell you like it is, but you may not like the reality of where you sit. And that's a hard pill to swallow. And more often than not, guys like us will find ourselves working for ourselves, right? And that's the best place to be in so many ways. But society's moving towards that. Everybody marches in one step, and you can't be yourself.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be everything for everyone. And I think brands that try to, grow their market share by being non-authentic, eventually, they ostracize their core. And, those are not the people I want to hang out with anyways. When I work with certain brands, it's because I like their company. Not just the individuals, but, what the company stands for as well. And when I see my core audience being people that I would hang out with. We do a lot in the country music industry. We do a lot in the 2A community. We do a lot in the veteran and first responder community. Those are the people I actually hang out with. My buddy last night went to a little pre-birthday celebration.
Ooh.
And Vegas is one of those places where I can only come for 24, 48 hours. And my girlfriend's over there looking at me probably saying
12 hours.
12 hours. I think that's all we're here. But if you're surrounding yourself with those type of people, good humans that believe similar things. Now, a lot of people don't agree with me on a lot of my opinions on things, but I can still articulate my points. I can listen to yours, and we can agree to disagree and still have a good time. And when I get around individuals who want to jump and scream and shout and make accusations, usually false accusations, and I think to myself, well, I'm so glad you're not wearing my product.
Right.
And that's where, if I'm being authentic and I tell you how it is, and we talk about certain things that become divisive, they shouldn't be. But you know what? If you agree with what I do and you want to rep my product, great. But I'm a big fan of the Second Amendment. I'm sorry. That might hurt your feelings. We can talk about your feelings all day, but at the end of the day, I'm still probably going to carry every day to protect my family.
Do you think that it's okay to be honest today?
I think you have to be if people ask. But if you ask a question, be careful, because I'm a very honest person. Talk about no tact. I have always been told in the military, in my report cards, their records, it says I'm very effective in getting things done. I won't sleep. I won't eat. And usually we'll build a team that's very cohesive. But if you want to know what you're doing wrong, don't worry. I've already told you. And then we're going to fix it. And if you do it again, you're gone. So when people ask me a question like, what do I believe in, and then fill in the blank, like, do you want to know the answer? Because I'll tell you, it just might hurt your feeling, and I don't have any. So at the end of the day, I care about the people in my inner circle. I got my father, I got my kids, I got my close friends and employees, and other than that, I could care less about your feelings.
That's a quality to me, though, Tyler, that I think it comes from upbringing. I think it transcends maybe the military and a lot of other things, because I could easily sit here and say I learned this in the academy, or I learned this doing that, or you learned this. I think it comes from upbringing. I grew up in a house that was painfully honest, right? And I think I think it goes deeper, and I think being painfully honest with people and having a forum where you can be painfully honest. But I just think today that forum's dying, right? Like, now everybody wants to worry about everybody's feelings and how they're going to feel about something. And I don't have that mechanism, right? So the way I was raised in the neighborhood I grew up in, there wasn't a lot of that. And I don't apologize for it. I actually just recently, the last year and a half, came to this conclusion that I am who I am, and I'm not going to apologize for it. And that's just how I feel. I'm like, all right, cancel me. I don't give a fuck. It's like whatever. But I'm going to shoot it straight, exactly how I feel and exactly what's on my mind. Does that mean I'm out to offend anyone? No. Just I'm going to say exactly how I feel about an issue, one way or the other, controversial or not. But I feel like that forum is dying to be that person, and that's a shame. That's what hurts the most.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. There's a lot of things that are dying in kind of the value-based systems that we're currently living in. But I've got kids, and I try to raise them the way that I was raised. My father is, a very important figure in my life. He works for me. He's at 9 Line every day. No one really knows what he does. He's more of a morale officer. But yeah, if he had one shirt left and he was wearing it, he'd take it off and give it to you. Yeah, he would sacrifice anything and everything for us. And he would tell me, when I was growing up, if you want something, earn it. I wanted a motorcycle. So I went and borrowed a lawnmower, and I went to every single person that I knew in the neighborhood and started mowing lawns, right? Back in the day. And eventually got my dirt bike. I was 8 years old. He would give me tasks like, if you go pick up sticks, I'll give you like a penny per stick or something. So I would take these very large sticks and I'd break them to tiny sticks and I'd line them all
Genius.
up.
Capitalism.
He'd see me do it, and he'd be like, you know what? I'm not even mad. That's smart. But now stop doing that. That's the same person who would tell me, like, never throw the first punch, but finish it. And try to walk away, be the bigger person. But if someone puts their hands on you or your, loved ones, then end it quickly. And that's what always got me into martial arts, and it got me into weaponry, and it got me into the military. And I think it's allowed me to still be alive to this day. So encouraging kids to go into martial arts and learn self-discipline, encouraging kids, like my daughter's 6, she's turned 7. Her only 2 things she asked for was a real gun and a knife, a pocket knife. And, when you hang out with a bunch of Rangers and 160th guys that are over your house all the time, and you're watching them as they're teaching your daughter room clearing techniques and other stuff, and
Blade
she's wearing
combatives.
night vision goggles, you're like, you know what, I did something right. Because she also knows that, she would never do anything except for to protect her friends and family members. And, she learns that discipline, and we joke around about it. She's going to be the next and probably first Navy SEAL, if she wants to be. But, those are the values that we're trying to teach these days. And when you start showing pictures of you teaching your, kids weapon safety. By the way, like, my kids have BB guns, right? And they do it with me. But eventually they'll learn how to use an actual weapon.
Right.
And I'll teach them. And that became controversial. That became divisive. And, the people who want to scold me about how to raise my children, like, I think my dad did a pretty good job. I feel like I'm doing a decent job. And why don't you go off and worry about your feeling elsewhere? Right.
It's hard with kids, because today everybody wants to judge from afar on social media and everything else. Do you decide to plug them into that? Do you make them visible? Do you allow yourself? See, this, in my opinion, there's always 2 types of approaches. You can feed off of it, right? Like, people always say, like, I feed off the hate. Like, I just, like, people always, close friends of mine, they're like, don't do that. He's going to love it more than he's going to hate it. Or you can just shut it out and not involve it. It's hard with children, right? To balance that, whether or not you put that out there or you don't. How do you juggle that?
Well, I mean, first off, I'm that stereotypical helicopter parent. So I do hover over top of my kids, and I need to learn how to back away. But I do the same thing my dad did, which is, he's gonna educate me on the realities of the world, and he's gonna encourage me to be a good human. That golden rule always applies. But when it comes to trying to shield my kids from technology, it's never gonna happen. That we're living in a world where, like, my 6-year-old will do cooler things on a computer by the time she's 10 than I ever will.
Right.
And if you can embrace that, and you have controls. There's certain things that I'd restrict them from being able to see that I don't think that they need to see. But when the topics of conversation that come up that are difficult, that were introduced through the virtual world, I want them to know, about the dangers, and I want them to know the difference between the computer world and the real world.
Right.
You go out and experience both, but at the end of the day, you can't protect them forever. They have to grow up. You need to embolden them, encourage them. You want them to be thinkers, and you can't do that by just feeding them the only information you want. That is what
The bubble children.
Oh, that's what we battled with overseas. You want to talk about extreme, brainwashing. You have individuals that are restricted from knowing anything about the world and saying, "Hey, you're illiterate, but this is the Quran. Explain to you what it says. Kill Americans." Right? You'd have to deal with stuff like that, and people don't understand that is a thing. And we are seeing it here more now than I would ever imagine. And coming from those communist type countries, and they're more fascist than actual communists, which is the whole conundrum with communism. That censorship, the idea that you and I can't have a conversation and talk about something, or we'll be blacklisted. We're no longer allowed to be on certain social media platforms. I never thought that would be a thing. I thought that that's what we fought for, was that First Amendment right. If I'm not telling you that I'm going to bludgeon you with this howler head monkey spirits, which looks incredible, by the way. I'm going to drink some of this.
You might need it. We got ice.
Yeah. If you can't show your kids the good and the bad, and encourage them to be more like the good, then I think you're just trying to brainwash them, and eventually they're going to figure it out.
It's crazy when you put it into that context of you and all your brothers and sisters fighting overseas for that, and I think we're fighting for that now here. I think the new theater of war is here in so many ways, and I think everybody's engaged in it, whether you want to call it terrorism here or fascism here or whatever you want to call it. It's crazy to me, and that's why we were talking about this a little offline. I've taken it so personally with making my mission to take this whole conversation mainstream, because I feel like it has to. I feel like there's no other way if we continue to operate in the shadows. And I've always said this, one of the biggest failures of the Second Amendment in the gun industry is we make it about the black gun, and we make it so easy for them to demonize that and for them to put that in a corner and say that's the villain, instead of having conversations with good people like yourself and other 350 plus guests I've had on that are just like, hey, I enjoy the sport of shooting. I like getting out there. I just like people like mixed martial arts or people like whatever. If we don't have those conversations out in the open, then we are no better than an Instagram photo of some hot chick holding a gun. Then we're no better than that. And until that begins to take shape, we have a real problem in our industry. And it's systemic. It stems from whether it's the NSSF or the NRA pumping that logic out there that, hey, it's got to be about protecting this. We're making it one finite thing. And that's part of the fucking problem in the gun business, in my opinion, as someone who looks at it from 1,000 feet and says, hey, this is a real problem. We need to have an open and honest dialogue about who the great gun owners are in America and who supports the Second Amendment, and stop making it about one singular thing all the time and fighting the battle on their turf. Yeah,
and this is the difference between your politicians, your large corporations, and your entrepreneurs and innovators, because we don't look at the problem black and white. We try to think that outside the box, but really just look at it from a different perspective, a different angle. If your end state is what? You want to reduce gun violence? You want to get rid of fill in the blank. But then look at it from, like you said, all angles. You can villainize the weapons, but probably look at the person. I do enjoy just shooting targets, right? After coming back and seeing the atrocities of war and, taking life and watching other people lose their lives, it gives you a different perspective, right? It's changed me from deployment number 1 all the way till the last one. And I'd say that now that there's a therapy in shooting a weapon for me, and I don't necessarily like to go and kill things. I go on hunts. It's not that I've never hunted before. I just don't like to anymore. Still a big meat eater, just not going out, and mainly because I'm probably not patient.
Right.
But I like to shoot. And when you talk about, that's as a sport and a hobby, then you look at it from the other perspective, where this is how I know that I can protect my family. If it really boils down to it, I'm not waiting on someone else who has probably, arguably, way less training than I do on how to
maybe definitely
these weapons. I don't want them storming the castle, which is my house, to try to help me. I just want them to come and pick up the bad people that are there, and then that's it. And when you start saying that, because I have these weapons, of mass destruction, or whatever the
villainous
term that they use, why don't you look at it from the fact that I know that no other foreign country wants to come to our country because we outnumber weapons to humans for a good ratio. And if that changes, everything could change. And it wasn't that long ago that we had submarines off our coastline. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but just be worldly. Understand that other countries don't like us. Understand that weapons protect us from bad guys here and bad guys abroad. Think about that for a minute. You start restricting our weapons here, with an already, weakened point of view from other world leaders that we're not as strong and capable economically anymore. We've taken a huge economic hit. And if you think about it from a worldly perspective, a global leader, a president, a foreign minister, a communist regime leader, and I say, hey, there's a couple things that matter at the end of the day. It's monetary, money is power, and then it's weapons are power. And if we lose our monetary power and we don't have our weapons, which we're one of the largest weapons manufacturers, us, Russia, that weakens us from a global perspective. And I think that most people, when they look at the atrocities that are occurring, there's other ways to stop them. There's some people who probably have mental issues, and there's some people that don't listen to the current laws. Why don't we just enforce those ones first? We'll start there. You have some big issues. Then how about the people who are illegally not supposed to have a weapon have harsher punishments? Maybe there would change some things first.
Right. Yeah. There's two greater issues. There's so many issues, but there's two greater issues at hand. One being, the global perspective of the Second Amendment in terms, and when I say global, across the industry, across the footprint of the United States and how it's viewed politically. But I've always felt that at the manufacturing level, the responsibility of the manufacturers is to evolve this. We're better than a Glock 19 review fucking video. We're better than, some cheesy, QVC type fucking video. We're better than that. And we're better than mag dumps in the desert. That's been my running line. We're way better than that. That stuff's fun. It has a place in marketing. But the reality is I've always felt that this industry's been done a great disservice because there's just not enough people that can have an open and honest dialogue about exactly what we're talking about. And I think that needs to happen more. I think it needs to happen more frequently. I said it before, I think Instagram's the worst thing that's ever happened to this business in so many ways, because we took so long convincing manufacturers that Instagram was a viable place to do media and to do branding, that companies became fixated on it. Now getting them off that tit and into something else is such a hard turn, because that this industry is run by way too many old white guys that just don't understand that there's so many other avenues to push into, whether it's Rumble, whether it's YouTube, whether it's other areas.
Omni-channel. It's my favorite.
Omni-channel.
Everything. Don't be dependent on one.
Don't be dependent on one. And that's been one of the problems, because there's so many people. And, this has been going on for years. For years, we've seen companies do the same cheesy ads and the same stuff. And brands like yourself, John Novesque, when he was alive, certain brands have done a great job pushing into the civilian marketplace, pushing into areas. I said this before, and I'll say it 100 times. Action sports, nobody cared about skateboarding, rollerblading as an individual thing until it became action sports, right? And Monster came in and all these different things. We have to start to talk about it like it's the defense industry. And that's what I've said to many, many people. It's not there's a lot of problems with that, right, Tyler? Like, you have these guys that, like you, that were the tip of the spear, that were all things, and then you have the individual civilian, and we have to put them all. We all have to kind of lock arms and unite and stand together. If we stand divided, we fall apart and we're going to crumble. So it has to be everybody together, and that's part of some of the brand. The brand message that I love about your stuff is everybody kind of has to walk in lockstep. If we factionize and we stay where it's just, we're going to have, like I said before, a Navy SEAL talk about this topic, we become so secular and so individualized that it's easy to pick us apart. It makes it easier for the left to tear at the fabric of what we're about. And we make it easy for them. We spoon feed it to them in so many ways. Like, yeah, we're villainous creatures. We only crave this power for ourselves. Like there's a guy in a basement sharpening his knives, and then you get the people out there that are like, well, it's the Second Amendment, they're threepers. They're like, this is all it has to be. Well, it's not all those things. Either you care about the cause like you do, and you want to have a rational conversation about what you're passionate about, but everyone's passion is going to be different. Everybody got into that helicopter for a different reason. Everybody got into that sport for a different reason. Everybody loves what they love for a different reason.
You're going to find a lot more common grounds, and that's what you were kind of alluding to, and that I completely agree. Our brand itself is meant to be a bridge between those who serve and those who support us, and what we mean by that is individuals who are veterans and first responders, and in that I guess core group of individuals, and then the general civilian populace. There's a lot of commonalities and a lot of things that I'm sure we can agree on. Are patriotic in nature. And what we mean by that is something that you do for another person, with not expecting anything else in return. And right now we see politicians, it's a this for that. I'll agree to this if
it's always a trade, yeah.
And it's a trade of values and it's a trade of morals, but at the end of the day, in the core aspect of the 2A industry, you've got and you mentioned before you used to have just the hot Instagram girls with guns, and that's right. Not what that doesn't empower women.
No,
you can be a very attractive woman and enjoy 2A
and sell the idea
and employ your weapons properly and teach little kids that girls can be like the Alexandra Zadra from Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
She's a badass. She's really good with the weapon on that video game. She's really good with the weapon in real life, and I think that's a figure that, say, my kids could look up to, not some bimbo. No offense to any of the bimbos that they're listening that took a bunch of pictures, even though they've never touched a weapon in their life, and that you can tell just by the way that they're holding and operate. That doesn't change the perspective of our 2A community, because you have your police officer and then you have your teacher. Working at a school that probably carries.
Part of the problem I've seen, Tyler, is inside of the industry. Sometimes you want to reach across the table and slap people because you still have factions that think, well, I know everything because I was a cop, or I know everything because I was special forces, or I know everything because I was a Navy SEAL. You have those, and I know you've seen it in this industry where you have those people that walk around, and I'm like, listen, if you want to talk about who has a bigger and wants to throw it on the table, fine. Have that conversation over a beer, have fun with it, whatever. But when we're talking about the movement, the cause, the supporting the industry and developing and growing this business, to me, those people are no help to this business. I get disgusted when I hear them. Yeah, well, and I've had people on this show. I've had people from Knights Armament. I've had people on this show that are like, oh, well, this is tip of the spear stuff. I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking idiot if that's what you think, because the reality is we have to welcome everybody. The enemy of our enemy is our friend. And if we don't welcome everybody in, we're in trouble because we're going to need them.
Well, that goes to agree to disagree and then quickly move on together.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to find those commonalities and we're agree to them. I don't think that weapons should be taken forcefully out of your house. I don't believe that you should be limited in the different types of weapons you can own. I think that you need to safeguard them, employ them properly, and don't commit any illegal acts, or else bad things should happen to you. Now let's just move on. Now let's just go with that, because I think most everyone in the world, when you talk about it, or at least the United States, that those are those core principles that we hold on to. The Second Amendment, the First Amendment, are things that I would have fought and died and bled for, like my friends have. And I think when you talk about those factions, the military in particular, people look at it from the civilian side too. They're like, that was my brother, my father, my uncle or daughter. I'm not going to get in trouble for, or neutral, whatever the terms I'm supposed to be using. That's my military.
He, sure, him, me,
whatever. That is what people are saying. That person sacrificed for me. Right? Those police officers who gave their life for me. If I call 911, they're coming. Yeah, and I think when you see that, they laid down their lives and you're watching our freedoms potentially go away, that's when people finally unite, but it's oftentimes too late. And I think that's what we're starting to see now. It's too late. I hope I'm wrong. There's a lot of things going on right now that are going to hurt small businesses. There's a lot of things going on right now that are just going to weaken our economy eventually. And there's a lot of things that are being, used as propaganda, in my opinion, to try to just brainwash people. Let's not talk about these issues. Why is your mask not on? I'm scared. Like, are you kidding me?
I'm scared. What's more at risk, the First Amendment or the Second?
I think either one of them is a travesty that we're even having this conversation. I think either one of them, when you look at other countries that went down the route that people are proposing, when you look at history and you look at Germany and Venezuela and other things that occurred, it's a step-by-step process. It's first, let's control the narrative, then let's de-arm you, then step 3, whatever the heck we want to do, because you don't have any way to speak out and you can't protect yourself if you do.
Right.
So, I think that everything now is being sensationalized. You've got, investigative reporters that are just sensationalists. They don't have any actual corroborating data. They're just going to throw it out there and hope that if you say it long enough and loud enough, that the masses are going to be so stupid that they're just going to go follow them blindly into wherever you tell them.
How does it play out?
Well, we've seen how it played out in the history. So if you go further and further down this route, you can just repeat the same mistakes that other people did. I'm sure that, in pre-40s, like late 30s in Germany, the great, awesome Jewish business owners that had some weapons weren't thinking, they just think they're guns for our safety. There's no way they'll put us in ovens, for sure. That won't happen. But,
it's terrifying.
I'm not saying that's the only reason that led to that incredibly horrible thing, right? That's called the Holocaust, which is a real thing. It can happen again. There's evil people out there, and they could care less about you. And, we see it overseas, and I've seen the travesties of war, and I've seen, the most evil of evil human beings. And I hope that I can protect my children from never having to see that. Everyone always wants something better for their kids, right? I didn't have a lot of, money in high school. I lived in a pretty small apartment with my father, and it's nice to be able to provide them safety and security, financially and physically. That's what we always want. And I think at the end of the day, if you have children, that's your goal. If you don't, then it's still just to better yourself. But there's a lot of evil people out there, and there's got to be some good people willing to do bad things to bad people.
I think there's a major push to make people more docile and make people more passive and make people a little bit less than. And I think whether it's the media or this whole push to whether it's vaccinate, not that that's a bad thing or a good thing. I honestly have no opinion of it. Everybody.
I got the anthrax vaccine when the Army's like, yeah, it'll kill 1 in 100,000. Like, well, that's a few people. There's more than 100,000. They're like, well, we're willing to accept that risk. I'm like, okay, fine. Me personally, I'll go get vaccinated if it's what's required to, I'll put a mask on if it shuts you up, but also just put in earplugs. Yeah. At the end of the day, I've done that before. It really pissed people off. Like, where's your mask? Like, got it covered. Just put some earplugs in, stayed in the elevator, and they're just so mad. I'm like, I'm not sneezing on you. Like, you watch people pull their mask down, sneeze, put it back up. They're dumb. And you're never going to win an argument with a dumb person. That's what my godfather, Bill Buckley Jr., founder of Conservative Movement, National Review, used to have these debates all the time. It's like, you can't win an argument over a stupid person. They just talk louder. So just move on. And that's how we became docile. We became the silent majority, because I don't want to listen to some idiot who doesn't understand sciences tell me about sciences. I'm good. I actually built our own N95 mask, not because I want to wear one,
right?
Because I hate China. That's it. Chinese manufacturing is a very big concern of mine, because we saw that during this pandemic, it's a national security thing. It's like oil. If I don't have protective equipment, what happens when the next virus actually kills a large percentage of people? Or if it were to kill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, it's done nearly not that. But what about the next one? We don't have PPE. We can't even produce it here.
But that natural ability to protect that you possess is a rare one, and I think it comes a lot from your upbringing. You mentioned your dad, how he raised you, and how you were brought up, and I can attest to similar upbringings. It's something that not everybody has, right? This generation that we see in this new generation of elected officials, there's obviously been a lot of coddling going on, a lot of, you're entitled to, you're owed, you should have this, insert any, nomenclature that you want.
All the things, yeah.
All the things. And a lot of them don't realize what it truly takes to work hard, to develop your own thing, or even to get a job and to put the time in and put the effort in to rise up, whether it's in a meritocracy format or you're entrepreneurial. A lot of people don't fully understand what that takes and what's all involved in that. And they just want to sit home and play PlayStation all day or do whatever and zone out. And there's not a lot of understanding of what it actually takes to be successful and to accomplish things and to see something to the end. And that's another part of the issue, right? That stems into it. And it's causing a lot of people to just go around and say, I should have, I'm owed, I should be given.
Well, it's easy to pander to that base. And that's a base that, again, I'll try to equate the business and the military side, because that's a big part of my life, right? So you go pander to a group of poor, underprivileged, uneducated individuals overseas. You brainwash them to throw on suicide vests and run into buildings, run an aircraft. Right? First day, first mission, human beings running at my aircraft with machine guns, right? That's insane. You take it to a little bit lesser level here, but if you have a socioeconomically depressed group of individuals and you give them things that they wouldn't have, and you villainize a group of individuals that have a lot of stuff, whether they should or should not have it, whether it's generational wealth or they built it from nothing, it's a perceived, unfairness. Well, life is not fair. Though my upbringing was not all that great. By the time I was 16 years old, I've been arrested multiple times. I've been stabbed. I've been hospitalized. Not like a little one, like through the heart. It's a hard knocks life sometimes, and then you have to overcome all that stuff. You got to. For me, it was getting into the military. You had so many medical waivers. They're like, yeah, right. Then trying to go become an aviator. They're like, are you kidding me? But it was told to me I couldn't do something. So I said, that's exactly what the fuck I'm going to do. And I don't care about all the obstacles. I don't care about all the hurdles. I don't know anything about how to build websites. I learned. Didn't know anything about ERP systems, built them out. We built our own tech in-house. So when people say, I don't know how to do something, well, there's things called books. There's things called don't watch TV and don't sacrifice things. I don't eat 3 meals a day. I used to work out and do lots of hobbies. I don't have them. I'm a business person, but before that, I'm a father, right? So I'm going to hang out with my kids as much as I possibly can. And then after that, I'm going to get to work and all those other things that, people are doing because they have the time. I was essential during this pandemic. I did not sleep for months because I was given a task of build N95 masks for first responders and special operations community, help protect this country. I was like, you know what, we'll do it. I spent $1.5 million of my own money in R&D to build these things because we didn't have the ability to, help our service members. We couldn't produce these things in the United States. We built the Hanes, I worked with the Hanes Coalition, Mike Faircloth, and all the other big CEOs here. I was definitely the smaller ones helping out, but that became a mission, and it was incredible, and I lost money, and it wasn't fair when everyone else is making hundreds of millions of dollars. But at the end of the day, I also learned that there's big businesses that do things that are unscrupulous, and then again, life's not fair. But if you're going to sit there and villainize a group because they have something that you don't, and that you believe you're entitled to something for free, nothing's free. So when you grow up, I feel bad for my kids. When they grow up, they're burdened with the debt of what we have just done. And I don't know from a just pure numbers. I'm an engineer. I like numbers. I don't know how you undo what we did. We spent more money than in the last year than we did in all of our wars combined, and that's incredible. So we are right now giving out a lot of things. I hope it is sufficient to keep the economy running. I hope that the things that I'm concerned about don't come to fruition, but I've always learned that I hope for the best and plan for the worst. And right now there's a lot of things that are occurring that I say are a big front against my business. Right? I'm a U.S. manufacturer. All the policies that are being set forth make it incredibly hard to manufacture things in the United States. So even though you say that you're for USA made,
right?
I can't force you to buy an American made hat or a shirt or a mask, right? And at the end of the day, you can't control pricing. So people just go and say, hey, I know that this Chinese mask is made almost by, you can't say slaves now. I think that hurts people. I'm just saying
someone.
It's from someone who's being controlled by an entity that doesn't really pay them anything and makes them do that, and they'll kill them if they don't. So whatever you call that, people, there's an international ban on Chinese cotton because of that, because of the inhumane practices. But everyone's so woke and they support Nike. Where do they get all their stuff from? There's so much hypocrisy going on right now. So you want USA made, but none of your policies go for it, and everyone is pro Nike because they're woke and they care about human rights and not all of it. I'm probably get sued now. A lot of manufacturing from companies like them buy things on the cheap and sell on the high, and it's way cheaper to buy things made in China. And why is that? If I have to pay everyone $15 an hour, which I pay people, just about that now anyways, how can I compete with someone whose t-shirt costs $1 landed, but by the time I, have it manufactured and
right,
printed, I'm into it for $5, $6, $7. So you're talking about 500, 600% markup. My mask cost me 50 cents. I sold them for 50 cents. But right now you can buy them for 10 cents.
It's kind of a fool's narrative on the left, right? Which is what you're alluding to, because recently one of the bigger carrots they dangled is we're going to have $15 minimum wage, right? So that's something that's been put out there. But what they don't realize is by doing that and pushing the economy in that direction, all that's happening is you go into McDonald's now, it's all kiosks. So you're not going to have $15 employees to pay 50. You have two people behind the counter because everything is all rung up on kiosks now, and that's how all companies are dealing with it. So they're like, yeah, sure, raise minimum wage 15, 20, 25 bucks. Great, we'll just do this, and it's part of the narrative, like, oh, we should have open borders. It sounds good, right? It sounds interesting, right? Okay, yeah, we should let everybody in that's suffered or political prisoner of other countries. We should save them. And
just not in my backyard,
right?
Not where I live, not my community.
And it sounds good on the pulpit, right? It sounds like but what they don't realize is the cost, as you're saying, that comes with that, the human cost, the financial cost. They're saying it costs something like $600 a day for one of these immigrants, illegal immigrants, to come into this country, and people are dropping kids over walls, and they're saying, on the news or anywhere, you look, oh, don't look over there. Look over here.
We're actually not allowed to film it. That was actually an order, and it was because of safety, COVID. Because everyone there, no one's allowed to have a camera. None of the guards are allowed to post a picture, and it's because of safety. They don't want anyone to get COVID, and that's why. And that was actually put out in press releases, which is incredible. You're hiding what's actually occurring. You know that the policies that were in place before were working. You put new policies in place, and they're they're doing exactly as designed. You can't go and create a big shiny light and not be confused with a bunch of moths. And I'm not equating the human beings to a moth. I'm just saying you created an incentive for people.
No, I get it.
You want to undo all of the things that were done before because it was done by an orange man, right? That's the argument. It was done by the previous president, and that person was bad, thus all their policies are bad. And this is where I try to educate some people. I'll always support initiatives. I'll never support a political pundit. The reason being is human beings are flawed, and no matter what you say, it doesn't really matter. It's your actions, and if you're saying one thing and then you're taking actions that are the opposite, that's who you are. And right now we're encouraging a lot of things that were put in place previously to be undone for no other reason other than politics, and the effects are going to be global, and the effects are going to be long terms, and that's my opinion. And you can prove me wrong once you become educated. I'm not saying you, but when other people come and they start throwing out numbers, is like, I love numbers. I'm an engineer. Everywhere you walk around my buildings, KPIs, it's data. Just tell me where you sourced it from. Like, well, I got it from the internet. I got it from Facebook and Instagram. And I think Twitter also said something from someone on it that was famous. They had a blue check mark. Like, okay, stop talking. We're just done. I'm done. Just give me your data, and then we'll just have a difference of opinions. And that's, if you watch one of my favorite documentaries, I don't watch a lot of documentaries, but if you get a chance, it's called Best of Enemies. Is Gore Vidal and Bill Buckley was talking about the difference between capitalism and communism, and it hasn't changed in over 60 years. The same debate is going on, and there's a little bit more colorful language nowadays. These two individuals could have a conversation, hate each other, but still debate, allow the other person to finish a sentence. And they were extremely intelligent on both the left and the right. And they had data, and they had numbers, and they differed in opinion. And it was great, because then it was thought-provoking for everyone who watched it. It wasn't everyone talking over everyone, making false accusations, or just accusations that have never been validated. They heard it from someone. That's what we're missing right now, is the transparency of where the hell did you come up with that statistic.
Right.
I asked like 10 of my friends.
So I have another show we do on stereo, me and a buddy of mine. It's a sports show, and we debate sports because it's one of my passions. I'm a wealth of useless sports trivia. So I said to one of the rules we have with callers who call in is you can call in and chime in with whatever you want, but if it's not backed up in fact, we can't do the yeah buts or what if LeBron James played when Magic Johnson played, or this one or that one. We don't operate in fantasy land. That's for fantasy.
That's like that crazy ex-girlfriend that everyone's had is like, my brother's friend's sister's nephew said that you're cheating on me. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but
what the probably, but that's ridiculous.
Right. It's we create rules, so you have to back it up in stats and facts. And if you can't back it up in stats and facts, we just disregard it as immaterial.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying that what you have as an argument couldn't be, but I just don't want to go and be the person who says like, you're dumb. I just would like you to figure it out on your own.
I think you can have an informed debate and be passionate about a topic and have your stance on it, but you have to know that it might be your personal stance. Like, I might feel OJ did it, right? Based on evidence that we already know that's out there, right?
I think he did it.
Yeah. So and what that is it becomes like Occam's razor, right? It becomes like you're adding up the sum of all the parts, and you're saying it's going to point to the simplest decision on the table, right? The most obvious decision is usually the right one, or your gut. And that's why I like watching, and this is a little personal, but I watch a lot of true crime stuff and everything else because at my heart, I like those investigations. That's more my speed, and I like to kind of pick apart who did it, what, when, where, play the clue game, but I think people who have debates don't understand you can have a little bit of that, right? But you have to have at least 3 supporting facts. Like, I can say, yeah, the glove might not have fit, but the footprints were there.
The live video feed, the 10 witnesses, the fact he flee.
There's a lot, right? So you use that Occam's razor to say, well, listen, all of these things support my hypothesis, which is this. And I think you can still have a hypothetical in many debates, but you have to back it up with at least 3 or 4 solid points that point to that area. That's my belief.
What's that? Is that difference between, and I say it now, like causation and correlation? People see that there's a correlation. Like, if there are more butterflies in the state of Florida, there will also be more deaths. Like, that's not a thing. But you see it in, hey, the crime rate statistics when it comes to weapons. these states have the most strict or least strict, and because of that, they have the least crime or the most crime. Like, do you know how many other variables go into that causation? Do you even know the difference between what I'm talking about? And when people just look at the correlation between X and Y, and they don't worry about like how they co-vary, or they're not willing to even have that conversation. I went to pretty good schools, and I'd have professors that would tell us things. And the good schools, I think they encourage the debate. We can have a conversation. I might change their opinion on something. They might change mine. I might learn something. And if you're not willing to go into a debate to have the opportunity to have your opinion changed, then you're just going to live in that, very crappy world of being stupid and ignorant.
Then it's not a debate. It's just a shouting match. Like you said, it becomes like, I'm going to stand on this pedestal and I'm going to, beat this down your head. And if you don't swallow it, I'm going to scream and shout.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you just game the system at that point. And that's where I went to school in the upper west side of New York City. You can imagine it was very, very not pro. I would wear my Blue Lives Matter shirt and 2A amendment type stuff, and I would get a lot of people mad at me. And they'd want to, send out mass emails talking about, we need to discuss not having any police officers on campus. I'm like, cool, can I invite some police officers that stopped this girl from being raped like last night on campus to enjoy the debate too about how much they suck? Because if those
they're fascists.
Exactly. If those educated individuals are not willing to have a person with a different opinion come in and challenge them, or just at least have a conversation of what the real issues are, then you're just trying to surround yourself. It's that groupthink mentality. Like,
Echo chamber.
I don't want anyone else in here that doesn't believe exactly what I believe. That sucks. Like I've got so many people that work at Nine Line that don't agree with the things that I think, that voted for people that I didn't vote for. And we can have conversations. It's crazy. We can actually go hang out and have fun together. And if you can't do that and you're walking in, aggressive or, unwilling to change your opinions ever, that sucks to be you. Because I think deep down, most of those people know that they're dumb or wrong, and they're just fine with it.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting because you touch on the culture of Nine Line and the people there. Do you take active part in shaping that culture a little bit?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to. The company speaks for me. Anything that's posted. And I had a guy who tried to cancel my company. Right? I'm not joking. This is not that long ago. He was I believe a professor at a very left-leaning school, and he wrote an article about I've got stores around the country, and he just wanted the person who had my lease downtown Savannah to revoke my lease because they didn't believe in the things that I believe in. And then they went on this long tirade. They called my friend Eddie Gallagher a war criminal. It's someone that I'd call a friend, and someone that was proud that our company is able to help out in this time of need. And they made other false accusations. So I responded because this petition was going, it affects my business, right?
Sure.
So when you do things that are liable and then it monetarily affects me, like I have legal ramifications.
Sure.
But I also hate lawyers. So I'm like, hey, let's just have a conversation. I record all my stuff. So I those type of conversations. So I've got it recorded, but it starts off again, hey, I'd like to introduce who I am. I don't know who you are. I know you have this petition. I'd really like to hear you out. Wastes almost 2 hours of my day. And it ends with, the person who's at least willing to understand. He's like, wow, I feel, one, like an asshole. Two, we're going to take it all down. And three, thanks for having this debate. I was like, hey, that's great. But what his argument was, well, I was just saying about your company, not you. I was like, why am my company? Like that, I built it from nothing. A lot of blood, sweat, tears, sacrifices made to get to where I am. And if you're going to go and make these assertions, at least back it up. So Eddie Gallagher's not a war criminal. He's acquitted of his crimes. But, this country, you're guilty till proven innocent.
Right.
And then even after proven innocent, you're still guilty. All of those things is because people just read the snippets. And I've proven it before in articles I've written where, I said, and actually it's 8-pound, 6-ounce baby Jesus killed by Navy SEAL Eddie Gallagher. And it was one of those things I posted just so that in the article it says no time ever did any Navy SEAL ever kill a child. And it just proved, because all the comments were, I can't believe you would kill the son of God. You're like, are you kidding me? You don't read past the headlines and then you take it as fact. And that's where we are today, is that, people become somehow overnight legal scholars in constitutional law when it has to do with, Supreme Court justice. They become scholars in the Second Amendment when it has to do with Second Amendment. They become medical experts when COVID breaks out. And they learn it from headlines, from the major news sources that are not investigative journalists. They are sensationalists. It becomes entertainment.
Can you trust any news?
Sure, if it backs up their facts and it has, back in the day, investigative journalism, you have multiple sources, validated sources. You had, editors and publishers that truly cared about not putting out false narratives. Yeah, and I think right now we just push out news on these other sources like, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and it doesn't have to be verifiable. You can say and do whatever you want. And now we have censorship, but it's censorship to the point of, one way, in my opinion. And I think that if there's more mediums and we have the opportunity to really, ensure that things that are coming out are factual, or at least show where the numbers came from, let people have an understanding that this is more of an opinion. This is not fact. I
have theories that especially in media, because it's something I take passionately, I'm passionate about. I just have different theories in the sense that I believe in omni-channel and going into multiple places. That's why I love what guys like John Lovell are doing with Warrior Poet Network, things like that, because I really can appreciate the fact that taking this conversation mainstream, what people don't understand is the way politicians look at things. They look at things like voting blocks. The moment that they realize, whether it's the firearms community, firearms owners, whether it's people that enjoy protecting the thin blue line or the thin green line or thin red line, whichever it is you're out to advocate for, if they realize that all these people walk together and they view them as a voting block, they're going to approach it very differently in terms of how they address it. Right now, it's very easy to make us a monolith, to make us into a faction, to say, well, we have the military and they need weapons of war. We have cops and they need this. But who are these people over here? Well, now there's 8 million, 10 million, whatever number you go off of new gun owners, and that scares the voting blocks, right? That scares the left. Like, who are these new gun owners? Because they don't have data on that yet. They just don't. And Nix doesn't make you put, whether you're a big D, little d Democrat, big R, little r Republican. So they don't know. But you and I both know a lot of those new gun owners are folks that are probably in the middle somewhere, right? They're probably what I would consider almost like pro-choice Republicans, right? So they're somewhere in that middle, and that scares the Democrats a lot. That's why the gun issue is going to be very interesting the next 12 to 18 months. And if we do a better job as an industry, taking it mainstream and welcoming everybody with open arms and putting our arms out to everybody and saying, come on in, the water's warm. And opening those conversations, it's going to be a lot better for us. And that's why, I'm the way I am and I have the stances I have in terms of opening up the dialogue and the conversation. But we got to get away from the green screen in our grandmother's basement, Glock 19 reviews and crappy, braided frickin' survival bracelet, we operate in the fucking gutter of media. For whatever reason, we fight for the scraps off the table, and that's not the way. I mean, you talk about working with major manufacturers, being a top performer, being a leader in your industry of soft goods. I'm talking about globally, and forming those initiatives, initiating building masks, and even taking it at a loss. That's the kind of stuff the industry needs. That's the kind of mainstream support that the industry has to garner. And we have to get away from making it really simple for them and saying it all boils down to an AR-15 or it all boils down to this. Because if we continue to allow it to be secularized, individualized, one thing, it's very easy to pick it apart. It's hard to kill an armada when they all stand together. It's very easy to pick them apart one plane at a time, and you know that. Mm-hmm. Better than anybody.
Yeah, I think you're also dealing with some generational issues. So if you really want to fix these things, it'd be like, hey, I need to get a new audience. Let's get back into print advertising. It's not super effective these days as digital, but maybe it takes a shift back. But if I were to say I want my daughter to grow up to want to be in the gun industry, I probably don't want to just have half naked girls with weapons everywhere, as the thing that I'm supposed to be promoting. If you want to change culture and you want to empower, say, women, there's 50% of them last time I checked, just from a numbers perspective out there. How many girls are carrying weapons to protect themselves? How many girls are carrying weapons as a form of empowerment? But we need to do a better job from your perspective to say, hey, young lady, let's teach younger lady about the importance of weapon safety, about the importance of how to employ this thing, and how it gives them a sense of independence and self security. Just like when you teach martial arts, you talked about changing the dynamic earlier with how people looked at UFC, and getting the individuals to become iconic, right?
Humanized.
I'm wearing a Ken Shamrock shirt. I like some of the OGs from original UFC, but you had to bring the humanizing out there, so that people know these are not bad people. They're good humans, and
there's good humans in the world.
Yep, and they just happen to enjoy this sport. There's a good little. My daughter is precious. She loves everything, but she also likes to shoot guns. I'm gonna encourage that, because when she grows up, I want her to be able to protect herself. She's, very important to me. So if she felt that she was safer and more secure, after she's been trained on how to use a weapon, that's a good thing. And don't ever talk about taking away those rights. And now let's talk to those people who carry, and let's try to promote their story. Maybe it's their story of how this weapon saved their life, saved their family, and doesn't get told halfway as much as this mass murderer, horrible, evil human that goes and does some atrocious act. That's all we talk about. And now we've actually just given this person what he wanted, is one moment in fame.
And we're on our heels. Like, we're constantly defending against that. And we're on our heels. We're not putting the good stories to the forefront as much as we could.
I stopped watching the news. Do you? I mean, it's really sad. Go watch the news. There's nothing good. I want to start a good news network. I want to do something just talk about good things. Everyone's tired of getting mass shamed. I'm tired of getting yelled at all the time. Tired of like all the craziness that's going on.
It's funny you bring up print, because I thought there were some redeeming qualities in whether it's the recoils or off grids or skill set type rags, but the problem is they can't get away from the same articles. What's your EDC? What's in your fucking backpack? What do you take to the range? I mean, people don't care about that shit. It's dead. It's like they recycle the same four people. I was never happier than when it finally Recoil had put Maj Touré on the cover. I was like, finally, it's not Tim Kennedy. No offense to Tim. I mean, who doesn't?
He's a beautiful man.
Yeah, he's a beautiful man. But it's like, you can't ride the guy into the sunset, forever. It's like, you got to have some different faces out there. You have to have some different people. And I think that the magazines, or whether it's online publication or print publication that you hold in your hand in the conventional sense, I think they should be highlighting guys like you. I think they should be highlighting, good business leaders, having those conversations. How about an article segment that's not what's your EDC, what's your business plan? How did you get to where you are? As a veteran, as a leader in the community, stuff like that. I'm like, why are we not writing? Why they're not writing about it? Because they won't get a free case of ammo from Federal.
Yeah, it's that multi-channel approach. Old has become new again. I think there's a lot of things that we've done in print.
Blogging's making a big comeback.
It is, yeah. There's a lot of things that people are trying to get away from. The majors, the social media major players out there, and they're trying to not be as dependent as some people like Amazon. They became completely dependent upon Amazon. Amazon said, you know what, I'm now making widget X. Good luck. And I think when you look at some of these older marketing techniques, they are becoming new again. Print does need to be revamped. I'm doing print though in a different way of marketing. I think that we're going to see that people want to go out, even though they can order everything online and not have to interact with a human. People are dying to go interact with another human. So going back shopping and going
the
to
retail
stores,
model.
The retail model. Like, I'm growing many new stores. If I could grow 20, tomorrow, I would. But yeah, luckily I don't have any, equity partners. I don't have anything but, normal bank stuff. So I get to do whatever I want to do. And I'm obviously following the numbers, and the numbers show me that our retail stores have grown 400% year over year. You know, that my business, non-mass that I gave away and made, like my core business is growing at such an exponential rate, you know, that I'm 30, 40 people short right now. Like I'm trying not to work the same people, you know, like lumber, I need you to come in on Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, I can't do that forever. You know, I am blessed that my company has grown so fast and continues to grow at an incredible pace, you know, but at some point you have to make that decision. It's just like any other business person I talk to, like you hit a marker, you need a new marker. But at some point, you know, you don't need a bigger yacht. You don't need another plane. You don't need multiple houses. You need to have an end state in mind when you go into business and saying, you know, I want to be able to pay for my kids' college, pay off my house, have, you know, a car paid off, and have, you know, this amount of money in a savings account. And that would make me happy. And if you keep on moving the ball, like, you know, I don't think that the multi-billionaires are as happy as everyone thinks. You know, it's just that one more yacht, one more this. That's not true happiness. You know, I'm most happy hanging out at home with some friends, barbecuing with my kids. I don't need to be on a mega yacht. And you know,
Elon Musk was selling it all. Remember,
David, he's just living in hotels all day long. I would do that too. It's so much easier. I don't like to cook or clean.
He can buy it all back twice very easily, but he, you know, I think there's something to be said about that. I don't think you're wrong. I think when you look at guys like, you know, the deceased head of Apple, you know, you look at guys like that live on the floor in their living room that just have simple. I think you go through that phase, right? I think life is about seasons. I think you go through that season of like, I have all these things, and then you kind of start to say, I don't need all these things.
I don't even use these things.
You never use these things, right? Like, so I have all the toys. Now I just want X, Y, or Z, and you simplify, and then maybe you go back through the cycle again. But the hope is that, like you said, you move that mile marker, and in that process, that mile marker moves again because you set new goals.
No, I go into casino and I got a method. I'm going to put this cash on the table. If it returns 10 times that, I'm walking away. That's just stupid not to. If I lose it, I calculated that I could lose that and it won't affect me. It sucks. I lose $200, but if I made 2,000, that's awesome. You know, that if you don't have that ability to walk away, it becomes addicting. Business becomes addicting. Money becomes addicting. And I've seen it, and it's horrible. You know, then people, you know, become just consumed with more and more and more and more, and they forget, like the Steve Jobs of the world, they forget, you know, what's truly important. So, you know, for me, like I said, brand authenticity is a big thing. Growing my company is a big thing, but being able to look back when I'm older and, you know, talk about the you know, my life's journey. I want to be proud of it, but I want to have someone to share it with. I want my kids to still be part of my life.
Totally. To me, it all, you know, for me, the way I look at it, I tell people this all the time. They're like, always intrigued, the guests, the people I've had on, the people I've been able to interact with in my life. I say all the time, I say, life for me boils down to the dinner table and having a good conversation at the dinner table. I want to die. I want to be 80 years old being able to have a fucking solid conversation at the dinner table. Yeah. Like, I've met some people, I've done some things, I've had some great conversations. This is just a living catalog of that.
No, live life, live your life. I had more crazy adventures and stories when I was broke as hell. You know, I was a young Army guy. I didn't pay very much. Yeah. You don't need a ton of money. You just need good humans around. You know, the guy that I was mentioning, I'm not gonna say his name, he's still active duty here. Talked about, you know, military stuff. Went out last night. He was a good human. We did incredibly silly things when we were in West Point together, and we got to reminisce on those stories. We got to talk about how broken we all are. You know, he just got, you know, his vertebrae all jacked up like my vertebrae, and I've got torn and broken just about everything.
Right.
And but they all come with crazy stories, and it's something that I'm gonna look back and say, you know, I lived my life to its fullest. I wanted to fly helicopters. I got to do that. I like to fly airplanes. I get to do that. You know, if I was so consumed with just money, I would have made way more money. Anyway, you can focus on that, and then it's easy. Just don't eat, don't sleep, take a bunch of Adderall, and just knock it out.
Or modafinil.
I'm 100% not encouraging people to do that, as a disclaimer. But just saying, you know, there's tons of way to make money. I could have started 9-line cocaine. You know,
it'll make you very efficient.
Exactly, if that's what you care about. But there's sacrifices. So I'd say, you know, if you want to
Nine cocaine.
Yeah, it's first veteran operated cocaine company. I had a business plan and everything. But I don't want to go to jail. I do very poorly in jail. I'm not a Navy SEAL. I like to fly those guys, but I'm not one. I don't want to die.
I want to ask you because this is something I want to dig into with you a little bit. Now, you've built incredible branding, incredible brand recognition, awesome ability to pivot into different markets and to understand the needs of the different manufacturers as you place product in them and all that stuff. When you walk around shows like SHOT or NRA, do you look at some brands and you're like, motherfucker, like what the hell?
No, I look at almost everything as an opportunity, right? So some of the people that I do business with now,
don't give me the good PR answer.
No, I'm telling you, like some people started off wanting to sue me or suing me that became some of my best business partners. Black Rifle, our relationship started off not all that great because I was still active duty and my brother did something silly, like try to rip off their brand, and then I got to fly out and meet with JT, Matt, and Evan, clear up things, and then we were like, we should probably do business together. But it started off very, contentious. 511 Tactical. I got sued by Yeti. They sued Walmart and me. I was like, I'll take that as a badge of honor. But
some you do, yeah.
Let's figure out a way to work together, right? Making products together. So when I see people out there with substandard products, I always go there and say, hey, I can help you. I would like to make a little money too, but I do a lot of private labeling. There's a lot of brands out there that, I make their products and no one will ever know just because I do manufacturing better, cheaper, faster. And I'll throw it out there as a challenge. Like I love engineering. I love numbers. If people come to our facility, they don't understand how much money we've put into systems. Like SAP is an ERP system, but like how much we care about maximizing efficiencies. And I would love to take on more manufacturing, but I right now have that problem where I have almost too much business, and I'd rather make this small group of people really, really happy than try to take on everything. Right? So when I see stuff that's substandard and I know I could do better, and I know it's not going to make it so that every single one of my senior staff has to work every single weekend of the year, I'll go and approach those people. We mentioned some of our friends that we know that I do have NDAs with, but that I do a lot of their apparel. And I think each one of those are relationships of mine. I've met with their CEOs and I've talked to them about how I can help them, and I put it out in a very easy to understand presentation. You're paying this, you're going to pay less, and I'm going to do it better, cheaper, faster. Is there any questions?
Let me ask it a different way. Is there a brand you look at that you maybe want to work with that don't yet?
No, almost every single brand. I'm not going to try to be cocky. Almost every single brand that I've wanted to do business with, I've done business with, and I'd like to keep that record. There's a few that we're in the process of onboarding and building a strong relationship, and we'll make announcements to that effect. But there's some people out there that approach us. We're like, hey, you go to my competitor, you're a pain in the butt.
Do you ever find yourself in a position where you want to advise them a little bit? Like you take a look at like a brand like Browning, right? That literally puts their logo on everything, right? Is that something that sometimes frustrates you, or you're like, geez, it's like, if we did this the right way or we did this way, it might prove a little bit better, and there's a lot of confusion in the booth. Are we buying a shotgun or are we buying a fucking water bottle? What are we doing here? Do you ever kind of get into that a little bit and explain to brands kind of what's your wheelhouse and what isn't? Do you find yourself, course correcting some brands?
I always try to talk to, especially gun manufacturers. You guys make incredible hammered steel, barrels. This is awesome. Stick to your expertise. Mine is in manufacturing of apparel garments. So here's what I recommend. A lot of times, when they come to our facility, they take that at heart. It's like me going to their facility and saying, I'm going to go and start making my own weapons, since I do t-shirts. And we do more than just t-shirt. I joke around that we're more of a marketing company that just happens to sell apparel. Like Black Rifle is a marketing company that sells coffee, or I'm not going to speak for them. But they leverage marketing and they look at it from a holistic business stance. And I think when we work with other people, I show them not only can I do it better, cheaper, faster, what you're doing, but from sell-through. Like I will increase your sell-through. And I'll show you how to market this product properly. So when I go work with those gun manufacturers, I say, hey, I can make you USA made, I can make you non-USA made. You're a USA made gun company, I would highly recommend. And people like SIG. I'm looking at my USA made hats that SIG has right over there.
It's a good hat.
It is. It gives people options. Hey, if you want something made here, if you want something made elsewhere, if it matters to you. So you as long as you figure out what their values are and you can align to them. If you want a super cheap product, it's probably not going to be American made. And that's where I like to go and talk to people like what's important to you when we do work with other brands. Like, tell me about your brand so that we can build a plan around your apparel merchandising, because merchandising to me is branding. It does for my brand, and that's obviously what our focus is, growing that brand. But from those methods of growing our brand, I've learned that I can help other people that are maybe not in the apparel game get into the game and show them how to grow a brand around their weapons company, around their whatever company.
I have one more question. I got to ask, when you're walking around a show, NRC shot or NRA, or your team is walking through, how do you pick a brand that you maybe, like you said, maybe they were, I don't like to put this way, like maybe you were fans of their product, or maybe you use their product overseas, but do you walk around and do you ever look at a brand, like how do you scout is where I want to go? Like, what's the like, are you like, oh geez, their stuff's so shitty, I can work with them? Or are you more or less saying to yourself, I could do a lot for this brand, is probably a better way for me to put it. What's the process when you're coaching your guys up that are going to booths? Because I've seen them. Your team is diligent. You guys have a great approach. I remember some of the early days of some of the brands going around. I mean, when you're looking at a company, I get the mantra, but do you ever say, hey guys, this is what you need to look for. These are the brands we want to work with, and this is what makes sense. Do you find yourself coaching them up on who to approach?
Absolutely, and definitely in the beginning, but creating a successful company, I've got a team. From our business development, our marketing, our sales. They take our mission vision. We have goal settings. We have annual, quarterly reviews. Don't do a lot of meetings, but people understand our vision. It's strategic, and then they're going to operationalize it, and they're going to get after it. It's very similar to what we did in the military. But yeah, they know the type of brands that I like to work with, because I like working with the individuals in that industry. So we do stuff with NASCAR and we do stuff with country music because I like those. They do stuff with gun manufacturers because I like working with those groups. And I like the individual program you're rolling out to work with individuals and to help them promote whatever it is they're promoting. I caught some wind of it. I was being briefed on it a little bit, but how do you find someone to basically what I'm getting at is to the person out there that wants to have their own line or have their own this, and there's a lot of them out there that are like, geez, I want to have my own Max Michel line of clothing, whatever it is. How do you sit down with those people? What's the approach? And tell me a little bit about the program. Yeah, so you're talking about affiliate program. We have a lot of people who would contact us saying, hey, I want to rep your brand. A lot of people now contact me saying, hey, I want to create, and open stores, like joint ventures with us. And so we do have an influx of interest, and we are building programs out to that. And it's the systems and the sites that are required to do what you're talking about. That's the stuff that I like to geek out, because that could change a lot of things. That's what I was getting at. Yeah, that's why I really don't talk about it in public all that much about like our strategic. This isn't public. It's just two guys talking. Yeah, just the internet. Because we have competitors that actively not try to steal my customers. They try to hurt me. They try to hurt our brand. If I'm trying to do something, they're going to try to do it exactly the same and go after the exact same people, because they see me as a threat. And rather than just be better themselves, they try to focus their efforts onto stealing ideas, stealing things. There's a company I'm not going to mention that, during Eddie Gallagher's trial, we're raising money. They took the exact same verbiage, exact same stuff, and we're trying to sell the same shirts. And I'm like, all this proceed goes to helping my friend not be in prison, and his wife is feisty, so if you want to keep doing this stuff, I'll let you deal with her, and she'll kill you. So that when I keep things close hold, there are a lot of things in technology and systems that I'm doing that will be bigger, and there's A big interest in growing, like I said, sustainably. There's only so many hours in my day and my people's day, so I'm taking these initiatives really from a business perspective. What's going to make me the most amount of money? What's going to save me the most amount of money? And then I don't need to be a company that makes $100 million a year but keeps one. If I do 50 and I keep 20%, that's good money.
It's funny you say that. I had a really rich friend of mine, wealthy individual, very smart, involved with a lot of businesses. I'll tell you about him offline. But, he said to me once, he goes, I just want to help some of my friends become millionaires now. And I genuinely believe him. I want to make money together with people. And I genuinely believed him when he said it, and he's truthful about it. He's like, I want to pull people in, whether or not it's a fit, I don't know, but he's like, well, I want to pull as many people in as I can to some of these projects that I'm working on and see where it goes. And there's something to be said about that.
I would say it's one of the keys to our success. Is I've done hundreds, if not thousands, of joint ventures at this point. Some of them were wildly successful, some of them weren't not, but it was always bottom line up front. I'm doing this, you do this. I'm now partnered with a company called Hoist, which does military grade hydration.
Yep.
Which they have a big government contract, and I'm equity owner, and I'm helping advise and assist and market and grow. We're just about to launch our powder. It's great for hangovers. I drank a crap ton of it this morning, but it's one of those things where if I see a good product and it maybe doesn't have people or a process behind it, like the Marcus Lemonis people product process, it really does boil down to that. I can add value here. And that's, if I can add value to your process, I can't stack your people. But if your product's good, that's really what I'm looking at. If the product is good, like Black Rifle Coffee, and the people are awesome, they don't really need me for anything, but I can help with some of the process. Like they're one of their first franchises at Savannah, Georgia. That was one of the discussions. I want to have Black Rifle within 9 Line, and I've got 2 in Savannah, Georgia, one downtown, one there. And it was, you're going to make this money, and I'm going to make this money. It was a handshake deal. I don't think we had a contract for like 3 years.
Well, in Texas, a handshake's as good as a contract.
And you know what? It should be pretty much anywhere. And there's been some times where it bit me in the butt, and people have taken advantage, and they've screwed me, and they've cost me millions of dollars. And there's sometimes where it's been the opposite. We've all made millions of dollars. And it's, people look at that, and I think this is where the business understanding, if a company makes $100 million in the last couple of years, and then they just put it all back into the company to grow, and that's what's fueling the economy. If I'm buying yachts and extra planes and Ferraris and stuff, not necessarily, and I'm just hoarding cash into my bank account, that's not fueling the economy. But that was our model. If I was deployed, I sold my house to buy another piece of machinery. It didn't help with the wife at the current time, now ex-wife. I had to put all that time, money, and energy and focus into growing the company, but that's what is really required. And now I'm more in the middle towards trying to sustain better holistic life. I look for partners that if they have a really good product and they don't really need me to staff out the people, and I can improve on a process and we can all make money together, that's a no-brainer. And then it's just relationship building. Like, if there's anything I could do to help you and introduce you to people, I would absolutely do it. You have my cell phone. I think you're a good human. You are friends with a lot of the other people that work for me. Amanda Sipo said to say hello, and she's a big fan of yours, and that's the reason that this thing came together. And I think if you just don't screw people over, and you're a good person, and you just do what
have
you're
a soul,
people want to promote you, and they want to hang out with you, and they want to work with you. And so when you say, how do I meet people? I work with a lot of the same people that you work with, and they would say, you should work with this person, right? And I take that seriously. Just like if someone calls me from out of blue, first of all, I won't answer a phone unless it's programmed in my phone, and I won't look at my emails but once or twice a day, and most of the time, it's only from people that I've already corresponded with. So if you found my email somehow, I'm probably not going to respond, because I have thousands and thousands, just like I'm sure you and other people.
Well, I get a lot of the, if you need a guest.
Well, that's where there's no real introduction. I'm not going to pay attention to it, and we're not going to do business. But if it's someone like you introduced me to another brand and said you should work with them, they got a good product, they don't need you to staff it out, and you can improve upon a process, I would take that seriously, as opposed to just getting an email or a phone call. It's
so hard to I get a lot of the guys, and I don't want to go down a wormhole with this, but I get a lot of the guys that like message me, and they'll be like, I'm a veteran, I'm this, or I was a cop for 20 years, and I have this lube company, or I have this idea, and if you could just get it in front of this one or that one or whomever, right? And I'm like, I'll talk to them, and there's one I bit the bullet, and I had a conversation with, and it led to something for them. It was helpful. But 1 out of 100, I just like, they'll send me like this. You've read them. You've read 100 of them. These really heartfelt messages, and I'm like, look, man.
My assistant has for sure.
Oh, fuck
always,
yeah.
She's great.
And I still try to skim through them. I mean, Marcy does a great job. And some of my
you can't though.
They do.
There's too many.
And I try to explain to these guys, listen, when you have a pitch or you have a deck or you have something, listen, I'm not opposed to taking a look at it, or I can point you in the right direction. But like they'll come to you and they're almost like, help me. And I'm like,
it's the time though. That's what people will start realizing, is that that's the one thing Steve Jobs said right before he died is, you can't buy more time.
Can't buy it back.
And you can't buy it back. So when you say, like, I am not trying to be a jerk, but I'm trying to take care of 250 plus employees when I'm short 30, trying to take care of my kids, my dad, other family members. And I'm trying to be present and active in their lives and other things. So when it boils down to my time, I will sacrifice not eating breakfast or lunch. I'll sacrifice not working out. I'll sacrifice all of these things, like sleep. I just won't sleep, I guess. But when you tell me I just need you to help build my business, and you don't understand what it's going to take to get from A to Z, and I can look at it in 2 seconds and say, I don't have the time, but I'll point you in this direction. And that's where, again, when I work with partners and I work with, or just if I'm around people, I don't
So
be around
hard.
people who are, time sucks, who are just, they just drain the energy.
Yeah.
The ones that just want to complain, they want to talk about other people's business. I can't even manage my own personal lives. I don't definitely want to learn about like Susie Q's, issues with her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend. Like, I don't care. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but your time, time is finite. It's going to go away.
One of my good friends is Jay Cutler, the bodybuilder, and he's literally a block away. And Jay used to have the famous quote all the time. He used to say, I lived in a bubble. And he goes, people call me with their problems, and I just hang up the phone. And I said, Jay, you're a shitty friend. But you have to be a little bit selfish with your time. If you're not, who's going to be?
No,
right?
No one.
No one.
And so if you build those time blocks, right? If I'm going to come out here and do a show and it's near my birthday, I'm going to go and do something fun as well.
Double dip it.
I'm going to go, and if I'm going to be in NASCAR and we're doing this big promotion with them for Memorial Day, right? And I've got my kids that weekend. They like NASCAR. They like the drivers, they like the people. We're going to go and make a thing of it. We'll get an RV. We'll go hang out with, interesting humans, and it'll be fun for them. They get to go meet and hang out with cool country music singers. They get to go to meet drivers and athletes.
Amen.
And that's where you can mix your time, and pleasure, and your work can become fun. And it has to be, or else if you're an entrepreneur and you're not trying to mix the two, if I'm not trying to co-brand with people I also like to hang out with, then I can't have fun. NASCAR
is fun because you get so close to the athletes. It's kind of like MMA like that. The only problem with MMA here in Vegas is some of your heroes beat you up. That's that's what sucks. Listen, we could go on and on. It's been 90 minutes. We gotta wrap. We gotta have a little snack. This has been great. Obviously, everybody knows where to find you, but let everybody know for the sake of it. www.9line.com.
Line Apparel.
Goes without saying.
Yep.
Right. So, what are all the ats?
All of the ats.
All the Instagram ones. It's like at 9line at.
Yeah, so I'm the worst at that. So I'm going to look over there. And Darian, where are at? It's just like at 9line.
What's the main one? It's at 9line, right? Or is it 9line Apparel?
Sweet. I should totally know this. Yeah, so I'm not. I started an Instagram about a year and a half ago, and Matt Best came over to my house. We had a Cobra helicopter, and he was showing me the importance, and like did this funny video. He's like, "Oh, I'm a friend Tyler's house. Got a playground set. Got a Cobra." Like panned over. I had like 3,000 followers in like a minute. It is important. I just never realized it until recently. So
I'm
trying to get better. Basically,
it's at 9line Apparel, right? That's what it is. Right?
9line Apparel. That's it. All the ats. Long story.
Trying to make sure. Yeah. Long story. Listen, I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming in.
I appreciate you.
It means a lot. And it's hard to get good guests these days. They're rare. So I appreciate this guy for coming in.
Well, I think we appreciate both of each other for appreciating stuff.
A lot of appreciation. I want to thank the sponsors. I want to thank everybody at www.johnbartoloshow.com. Go check out the list of sponsors. They play in the reel in there down below to click. Go check out all their products and support them. I'll rattle off a few of them now. Enforce Weapon Lights, CAA, Blackwater Ammunition, Galco Leather Holsters, I mentioned Enforce Weapon Lights earlier. Enforce Weapon Lights, go check them out. Rhino Metals for all the furniture. Big shout out to Rhino. Appreciate those guys.
Make good safes.
Oh, fuck. Gorgeous. You could spend a fortune there.
I'm a big fan.
Big fan. And I appreciate everybody that supports the show. Kenzie's, all of them in the reel. Go check them out. Go support them and leave a review. Big shout out to 9 Line for today. Appreciate them and appreciate Amanda for putting the show together and helping make it happen. We are
All right.
just about out. I got to play the reel. I don't even know where the fuck I put it. Oh, it's always me.